Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Terry Kearns. I'm a senior account executive with Revelwood, and I'm joined by Ernie Goff, who is a pre-sales solutions consultant on our team here at Revelwood as well. Today's topic, we're going to talk about the importance of FP&A, improved solutions in the energy industry, some different capabilities that our partners from Workday offer folks. So we'll talk a little bit about, give you some background on who Workday is and a little bit about adaptive planning, which is the solution that we're presenting today. Many of you probably know who Workday is. They're a leader in the area of HCM, human capital management, and ERP. But they also have technology in the area of planning. But Workday is a publicly traded $6 billion company, gets very high ratings from both the analysts as well as the media, the tech media that follows the industry. And back in 2017, they acquired, just at the end of 17, they acquired a company called Adaptive Insights, which is rebranded today as Adaptive Planning. Today, Adaptive Planning, Workday has over 6,300 customers. You get very high user ratings from users, as well as get great ratings from the analyst community, including Gartner. We always like to point to their magic quadrant, where Adaptive is always ranks up and to the right in the leaders quadrant. Gartner, again, gives them high marks for ease of use. Forrester, great #1 in customer experience. BPM and Nucleus, again, just different areas, different analysts who touch on some of the, consistently ranking Adaptive as one of the top solutions in the marketplace. So many of you may have heard of Workday. Probably fewer of you have heard of Revelwood, although I know we have some existing customers on the line. But Revelwood is, we're a consulting firm. We're based in Florham Park, New Jersey. This is our 28th year in business, and we have been a partner with Workday Adaptive Planning since 2017. And we are a firm that specializes in solutions for the Office of Finance specifically. So all of our consultants speak finance. Obviously, the solutions that we implement around adaptive planning are primarily financial applications, right? But I also have to understand the underlying technology and how to connect it to different systems. And our folks are all certified and have both of those dual skill set. Today, we've got over 300 active Workday Adaptive Planning implementations under our belt. Again, touching all the different areas of, the full implementation process. We also do sales and pre-sales. And again, we've been at this for a while. This is our 28th year in business, and we're very proud. Again, this year, we were awarded for the second year in a row, Workday's Solution Provider of the Year. And this is not just a token award. This is something that they track performance, customer sat around implementations. And it's an important award, and it's something that we're excited to have 2 years in a row. So Adaptive is a solution that works very well from small businesses to mid-size to enterprise. We've got some very large customers. This is kind of a sampling of our customer set. You'll recognize many of these logos, but some you won't. Some are smaller companies who are making the journey, moving away from Excel. That's a pretty typical path that we see, is the companies who've kind of hit the wall with Excel. Their processes are broken for all the reasons you folks on this call understand. And they've decided to move toward a purpose-built application for budgeting, planning, financial reporting. And so Adaptive is a great solution for companies that are in that situation, as well as larger companies who are expanding their business and need a solution that can grow with them. In the energy and utility space, which is what we're here to talk about today, this is kind of a sampling of adaptive customers. And again, you recognize some of these brands, Siemens, obviously, and Southwest Gas, and some others. Enmax is a Canadian firm that is going through a very rapid growth. And we love the quote from their VP of Finance talking about adaptive, giving them the agility to make decisions collaboratively. So that's one of the key capabilities of this type of technology, adaptive planning, a dedicated solution for, budgeting, planning, financial modeling, is the ability to bring users from different departments, folks that are stakeholders in the process, P&L owners into the planning process, getting it out of, three folks or two folks in the Office of Finance who are trying to manage that whole process and getting more stakeholders involved. That's a key capability that we offer. Another company who's an existing customer is called the Doe Run Company. These folks had a bit of a different challenge. They have 4 different entities, and trying to manage and consolidate, financial analysis, forecasting, and all their corporate budgeting needs, and trying to do so with an Excel-based process. And so they brought in Adaptive, and that really helped them to improve the process significantly, through multiple versions of their financial planning models for each different location, because they're different businesses. Automate standard cost calculations for budgeting purposes. So automation is key. We're going to talk a lot about that. Ernie will talk a bit about that. But, one of the key benefits to a solution like adaptive planning and bringing that in is the automation of importing data and connecting with different systems and automating cost calculations and a variety of different things, getting away from the manual Excel error-prone processes that folks struggle with today. Variance analysis based on production and usage efficiencies, right? And also metrics for individual customers, which a lot of folks struggle with and want to be able to provide that capability. And these are some things that aren't necessarily unique to energy and utility customers, but they certainly apply, and they applied in the case of the Doe Run folks. Around the technology, so what makes Adaptive such a great tool? Why do we get such high ranks from our customers and from the analyst community? Some different things that folks look for in this type of a solution. Number one, it's got to be intelligent. It knows how to handle data, how to scale to data and scale to users. It needs to be extremely flexible. I mean, what folks are used to and what folks love about Excel is the flexibility and the ability to go in and create custom models based on their specific requirements. And Adaptive allows for that, and it has to allow for that. That's one of the key features that folks look for and they rate very highly. So, if you're talking about dimensions in a model or scenarios, reports and dashboards, I would sum all of that up by saying a solution like this has to be easy for folks to adopt. It has to be implemented easily. It has to be administered easily, not by folks in the IT department, but folks in the Office of Finance, because that's where these processes live. So ease of use, and then finally for different types of users. So with adaptive planning, we have different interfaces for different types of users. We have Excel interface for folks who, want to stay in Excel. They need to get away from it, but they also are comfortable in that interface. But then you've got folks out in the field, in the line of business, who are used to using different types of web applications, and Adaptive has an interface that's strictly web-based. And then thirdly, we have something called Office Connect, which we'll touch on and show here. But what's nice about Office Connect is it's the ability to use our models and tie into the Office suite, right? PowerPoint for, board decks and investor decks, and different, and tying into Excel, tying into Word for different types of reporting requirements that companies are tasked with. I'm going to pass the baton to Ernie now. I'm sorry, and he'll take us through what he plans to present.
Thanks a lot, Terry. This is a good overview of what I'm going to be covering today. The basics, and so we will,
Sorry, Ernie, back.
it's okay. Dashboards, go through some financial statements, a little bit of workforce planning and reporting. So kind of just to show you, what Workday Adaptive Planning is, how you can organize it for better collaboration, some familiar faces with financial statements and workforce planning, but how Adaptive handles those, and some really cool stuff in reporting. So with that, I'll pick up the share. So what we're looking at here is how Workday Adaptive Planning might appear to someone when they logged in. This is an example of the basic landing page. What we're looking at here is some KPIs, familiar, right? R&D spend, EBITDA, gross margin. And I like to start here because it lets me talk about how Workday Adaptive Planning is a SaaS application. It has all the benefits of a SaaS application. Namely that it brings everyone into the same context, right? It allows from anyone from the CFO to the person who started last week to come into the company in the same way and see what is important. They don't have to go looking through deck after deck or binders or sorted Excel files. A SaaS application will let you come right into where you need to pay attention. Workday Adaptive Planning is especially good at this. Every one of these dashboards is configured based on the user level, what they need to see, and that's all something that after it's set up, users can maintain very easily. I like to start here because it also lets me show the 3 of the 4 basic building blocks that cut all the way through Workday Adaptive Planning: versions, time, and level. Workday Adaptive Planning has lets you have unlimited versions. So what we're looking at here is all the different versions that are existing in this instance. You can organize them into different types of versions. That lets you keep track of them. You see the lock symbol here. You can close them out. How many times have you had it happen where you thought you were done, but somebody had something to the file and you had to do a whole bunch of variance analysis? One of the other things that's great about Workday Adaptive Planning is that you can have unlimited versions. Other systems you might run across, there's overhead and drag and potentially commercial implications of wanting another way of looking at it. When you think about the energy industry and all the different kinds of change that go on, being able to model things in many different ways and keep track of them and compare them easily is a huge benefit. That is why Workday Adaptive Planning is set up this way, so that as your business needs change and change rapidly, you're able to go in, make the changes, keep track of the changes, and be able to compare them to each other. One of the other features of Workday of versions that's really cool is you have the ability to make your own scenario. Just simply go in. Okay. And what this does is this lets an individual user go in and with a couple of clicks, create their own copy of the scenario. In this case, I made a copy of working budget. That user can then go off and maybe do some kind of out-of-the-box modeling if they want, or model on higher or lower types of changes before they put their forecast or their responses back into the main scenario. I think that's one of the neater things that this does, is that lets you go off and work independently. Instead of taking it out into Excel, you can keep it on the platform and bring it back in when you're done with it. Another key building block are foundations. Foundations are the structure of your company. These are configurable and allow you to bring in how you work, your relationships, how your units roll up together. So what we have here is kind of a sales layout where we're looking at sales regions in a geography, but this could be organized by different divisions, different legal entities, the way you actually work. And it's available and accessible throughout all the different components, as we'll see in a few minutes. The last one that's easy to see here is time. Workday Adaptive Planning allows you to configure your time all the way down to weekly planning, counting periods. Again, this is one of those set it once, use it everywhere type of capabilities that you'll see again run through all the different features. So take you back to kind of that day in the life, right? This is a landing page. Someone comes in, they can take a look at how the sales pipeline is doing. They can take a look at production, pipeline information, any kind of orders based on customers, and they can go back and then start their, over their coffee, take a look at what's actually going on with the company. You can see here that these are, again, very familiar KPIs. These dashboards are configurable and buildable by end users. Workday Adaptive Planning is designed for business users. It is intended to be maintained by business users. So all of the features you would need to keep track of these things and hold them together are available to you here. One of my favorite features is the drill down feature. I'll show this here. Let's say you're taking a look at the OpEx expenses and you see it's up quite a bit. So with a simple click, you can drill into the department level detail, and we can see that the Sales North department is up by 2.3 million. These drill downs are configured automatically. It's a native part of Workday Adaptive Planning. There's no additional coding or business rules or anything that's put together. As the system is configured and as the system is maintained and changed, these drill downs work automatically. Workday Adaptive Planning understands that there's always a desire to know what's under the number, what's under the change. These drill functions totally support that idea and make it easier for you to trust the data that's below the KPIs. So this is how we would bring things together, but where do we start in the planning process? Let me take you over to our navigation. Quick word about this. This pane exists for everyone. It's a common backbone tool for all users. I'm an admin on this, so all of these different types of information are available to me, but this configures so that only what a user would need is available to them. We're going to take a quick look at some expenses, how expenses would show up. So I'm just, with a couple of clicks, going to navigate to what we call a standard sheet. This should look really familiar to everyone. We have accounts over here on the side. We have periods across the top. Here's our levels again, and our versions, right? Those will show up everywhere. Like everything else, Workday Adaptive Planning uses formatting to give us information. So what we're looking at here, the gray backgrounds indicate that we can't write to these cells. The gray numbers are things that are uneditable. The green numbers over here indicate that these are actuals. Workday Adaptive Planning believes very passionately that once you've loaded data, you should know it's actual. So once you make that kind of change, the formatting shifts over and the numbers will appear in green when they've been loaded. That gives users the confidence that they have the latest actual information in the system. No guessing about versions, it's there. So let's pretend for a minute that you are a corporate planner and you need to make a global change to the telephone expenses. With a simple click, I can pivot the view. And now we can see that accounts have moved up here and all of our levels have shifted over onto the left-hand side. We'll also notice that the format has changed a little bit. The cells that have a white background, these are now editable. The cells that have a blue background are consolidations, right? Those are sums of data in that row. Let's say I wanted to change October and November. I would simply highlight the cells, and using a right-click menu, I could adjust them. Brings up a wizard. I'm going to increase, let's say by 10%. And you can see that the formatting has changed again. Now the numbers are blue. Workday Adaptive Planning is live connected throughout the instance, but it has this one pause here to make sure that you putting the information in that you want. That kind of transparency and clarity is beneficial in the planning process. And right here, definitely okay with this. So I'm just going to hit save, and that's going to go right in. And you can see that as this renders, the calculations are going all the way throughout. My numbers have changed, and these have been updated. One of the other things that changed is I had a blue chevron on the bottom here. That meant that the cell was fed by a formula, but I've overwritten it. We'll talk about formulas in a minute, but Workday Adaptive Planning uses these visual cues to help you keep track of changes. So based on that, we can look up here in this 18,500. We'll see it doesn't have a chevron, which means it's been overwritten. So let's take a look and see what that might be. again, from the right-click menu, I'm going to bring up our Explore Cell feature. And what this does is this gives me all the information about the cell, what it is, where it's coming from, where it's visible. And I'm actually going to use the audit feature to look at the audit trail from the cell. And you can see that down here at the bottom, this was manually entered by our director of FP&A, Patrick O'Brien. And then I've been looking at it off and on for the last few weeks. This is a great feature, right? How many times have you been looking at something and wondered where the heck did that number come from and have to call around and ask for it? With this audit capability, you can look into this and have the confidence that you know who made the change and when. And it's right there with a simple right click and a drill. Let's change our perspective a little bit. Let's say we're going to be a planning manager for the Sales North department. The view pivots again, and we can see now I have this Sales North level up here, and my accounts are back on the rows. When I get down here, let's look at a couple of different things. Here we have a new chevron. It's an orange one. You can just click on that for a second. And we can see that there's a cell note attached to this. These cell notes are also give us the context, right? Help us collaborate, help us understand who made the change and when. And in a really cool feature, these also come through to reporting if you want them, so that somebody's comment and idea can be brought through every context to anybody who wants to read it. That's something that is very handy during the middle of the planning session when you need to track changes. Editing cells is very easy. I can make a change here and into legal and professional. And let's say I just want to copy that forward. It copies that information all the way across. But let's say I got an email or a note that says I have to have this be $35,000. I just type that in, and we'll be able to apply the breakback feature, which will let me push that information back into the months very, very easily. One of the other things that Workday Adaptive Planning does very well is it works with the concept of supporting schedules. How many times have you had to plan something on a business level detail in one place and then transfer it to another sheet? Workday Adaptive Planning's modeled sheets do a fantastic job of letting you make business decisions and draw on global assumptions to drive your price changes with confidence and clarity. Let me show you a quick example of how that works. I'm going to right click and explore this cell. And the Explore Cell feature has a lot of different functions. Here, I'll just point out that the Workday Adaptive Planning formulas are text-based. This very simply says this is the airfare account that appears on the travel sheet. I can drill into that amount, which takes me to another Explore cell and shows me that it's visible on the travel sheet. You bring that up for you. And what we're looking at now is an example of a modeled sheet in Workday Adaptive Planning. And you can see here, there's our 800, but these are all business decisions, right? A user can drop down and tell us the purpose of a trip, the description of a trip, what travel date. I sorted that. It automatically sorts. The length of trip in days, whether it's a domestic or international travel trip. This actually drives in a global assumption that I'll show you later. And through this modeled sheet capability, you're focusing users on business decisions. They don't have to know what the regulatory change was. They just have to make a business decision about what they're working on. The regulatory effects can be planned and stored globally in impact calculations, not the business decision. So from here, let me show you another example of a modeled sheet. A lot of us will wind up doing workforce planning along the way, and Workday Adaptive Planning does a fantastic job with using this supporting schedule concept as well. I'm going to explore the cell, and we're going to drill into this a little bit to show how that 48,951 came up. Right. We can see here that it's from the workforce planning model sheet. And in a similar way, right, we have the names, the titles, position ID, residence for taxes. We're able to go over here and plan whether the person's in a department or not for a number of months. Very similar information, but what I really like about the model sheet here is that, let's say I wanted to get a sense of how the calculations were going to work out. I could look at the row details from here, and it would bring up all the calculation history for me with a very simple click. So if I look at the Social Security line, right, how many of you have had to work with the FICA cap and things like that? You can see here that as the cap is hit, the expense goes to zero, but then resumes again. No extra coding or math or worrying or training to do that. That's a centrally managed aspect of this model sheet that makes it really easy for users to make a business decision about start and stop dates and tax rates without having to get into tracking the calculations for every sheet in the system. So from here, why don't we take a look at global assumptions really quickly. So Workday Adaptive Planning gives you the capability of making a decision on a rate for all users to use. That travel assumption that I showed you is a great example of a model sheet, a global assumption. You can see right here that domestic airfare per trip was running at 700, but maybe there's a fuel surcharge announced, or maybe there was a catch up or something along those lines. That 800 was put in and brought through as a rate on the travel sheet. Think about that when it comes to maybe raw materials price changes or other global KPIs or other rates that you need to bring in. These global assumptions are also a great example of sheets that are available only to specific users. Part of Workday Adaptive Planning security allows for the fact that information is not always made available to every user. You can secure things by level, you can secure things by individual. Really, Workday Adaptive Planning is set up for business users to handle business questions. So as you work with it, you're able to tailor the access, tailor the information so that people are working in the right context. That builds their confidence, that really improves collaboration because they're focused right on what they need to be working on. But let's say you have something that's a little more complex to work with. Let me show you an example of how the cube sheet works with complexity. So what we're looking at here is similar, right? We've got our version, we've got our levels, but we've got our accounts on this row. But we also have two new areas, right? Customer and product. And what this sheet is intended to do is to forecast product revenue and product expenses. It's a driver-based sheet. We've added customer and product dimensions here, right? This is a way that Workday Adaptive Planning handles multidimensionality. So think of your complex business cases where you are planning in 3 or 4 different types of sheets, and imagine that you're bringing it all right here. What you can do with these is really take this complexity and help users to bring it into the right context. So let's say with a simple drag, I want to plan by customer for my mini energy product across all my channels. I can simply enter my data here for my run. My product team, my product manager for mini energy can look at this. But think about this in terms of your customer planning, right? How their growth is going to be made. You have a sense of your business results. It's going to be impacted by prices and discounts. Imagine if you could just bring this right into context so you're focusing one thing at a time, right? So let's say for here, I've got my units in, but I also know that there's some discount programs kicking in. With a simple click, I can switch over and take a look at my discount plan for that period. This is really powerful stuff if you start thinking about all the different ways that things change really quickly, and finding just the right perspective on that information can be challenging. Cube sheets and model sheets are a great way to have people focus on their business decisions and have other people focus on the rates and making sure all that ties together so that everybody has the confidence in the result. Before we move forward, let me do a quick word on integration. So Workday Adaptive Planning was built for business users. It is able to bring in your CRM data, your ERP data, any sort of source that you want to bring in. It can be automated. It can be as simple as a CSV file or as complex as a hourly update from your ERP system. The tools are here to do. Really, the question becomes, what else do you want to bring in? I find that very compelling. Again, that the business teams at Workday Adaptive Planning really understand how we need to work with this stuff. The other thing I'll show you really quickly right here. Is model management. Workday Adaptive Planning is created for users to maintain. This is the same landing page, the same tiles, the same options that an implementation team would have. Not every user would have access to this, but the team members that have been selected to maintain the model, to make year-end rollover changes, to add accounts, to add new units, to add new product types, would be able to access this right here to make their changes with the same tool sets that the implementation teams would use. Again, giving you the confidence to maintain your system. So let's take a quick look now at reporting. How often have you ever had a situation where you wanted to see how the impact of a change rolled through all three of your financial statements? This report is just a great example of how that might look. This is a web-based report, and it's dynamic in that you can pick different versions if you want. But here, what we're looking at is just a simple, there was a variance of $18,000 in the expenses. How did it roll through to net income? How did it roll across the balance sheet? How did it roll across cash flow? How did it impact the financial metrics if it did at all? These are the kind of things that, as you think about how the same levels and versions and time and accounts all work together, build confidence, right? They let you move quickly. Because of the live connection within the instance, if you make a change and run this report, all the information flows through immediately. Let's take a look at another report sample. This one should look really familiar to everyone. This is your classic variance report. And what we've got here again is we've got our level, right? We've got our time. Our time is up here as well. We've got accounts down the side and information across. You can see that there's conditional formatting. There's sensitivity zone analysis with the flags. I'll point out here, you've got these footnotes, right? You can make questions appear here for everyone, right? This is part of the strength of the collaboration tools here, is that these are available all the way through. It has who it was, what time they did it. One of the other interesting things here is, remember that cell note we talked about before? Here it is, comes right through here. It's not mandatory, it's optional to bring these in, but a lot of times it can add context during the planning cycle. Maybe you don't keep them in the formal reporting, but this all helps keep people collaborate. So if someone's got something working where they're looking at something new and they want to say that they included it, this is a great place to carry it through for the planners and then take it out when it has to become a formal view. One of the other features that is really interesting, really fun about the reporting is the same explore cell capabilities are there and the same drill down capabilities. Here we see that other T&E is at 2.6 million actual, driving a massive variance percentage. If you remember back when we drilled through, it looked like sales north was out quite a bit. I think we found that money. So I'll go into explore cell again with a single click, and let's drill into transactions. And what we can see here, very simply, is that this was expected to be a lot less. It's expected to be $2,639, and this actual invoice is wrong. And what we've done here is really improve collaboration, because we've not found just an error, but we've also found a solution and can help our internal teams to correct this faster. So we're not handing off a problem or a query. We're improving our cycle time by telling our teammates exactly where something needs to be changed. Those are just some of the things you can do with reporting. But why don't I show you how easy it is to build one? And so I'm going to add a new matrix report, which is our web-based report. And you can see up here on the left, I've got all of our building blocks, right? I've got accounts, time, levels, and versions. So let's build a report from OpEx accounts. Workday Adaptive Planning loves drag and drop menus. So I'll just drag that in there. Let's do time. So from a whole bunch of choices, let's look at Q1. Drag this up here on the columns. Let's get a few versions in. Of course, actuals. And why don't we do our working budget? I'd like to look at a variance here. So I'm just going to come into my calculation section, drag that in. If I don't like that title, so I'm just going to quickly change the title to variance. And let's get some levels in here. Right. Just bring this up and make it a parameter too. Okay. So run this. And we can see with a few clicks, I've created a dynamic report. I can choose my levels. I can drill into different pieces of information. I can bring up Explore Cell. Really powerful stuff, especially if you're working on new things or things that are changing. I can download this. I can take a snapshot. I can share this. There's lots of different ways that you can take something like this and turn it into a permanent part of your planning process. But what about Excel? Well, Workday Adaptive Planning has some options for that as well. So let me wake this back up for a second. This should look really familiar. What we've got here is an example of an Excel reporting deck, right? Think of your month-end close or your quarterly updates. And how many of us have those? All of us. How hard is it to maintain those or to build a bridge between an analytics platform and your deck? With Workday Adaptive Planning, it's not hard at all. What I've done here is I've turned on the links. You can see, right, I've got my levels, I've got my time, I've got my version, I've got all the same pieces that are here. I've got accounts down the side. Let's complete this report. I'm missing a few of these account roll-ups. So I'm going to go into my accounts, my GL accounts, expand these all the way down. And then I'm going to take a section of these, drag these in. And you can see that the cells populate, the shading populates because as it builds links. And then with a click, I am just going to refresh all these. And you can see how all the numbers came in automatically. One of the things that I really love about this is it makes month-end rollover so much easier. I've been a practitioner. I hated to change all the dates in the month end. I spent more time checking my variances, checking my timelines, checking my labels. With Workday Adaptive Planning, Office Connect makes it easy. I simply go into my workbook properties. I advance my month to the next month end. I say, okay. I want you to take a look at the actuals and the working budget dates. I'm going to click here, and these all change. I now at March month end, all of my prior periods change. Everything changes automatically. That was pretty much what I wanted to show you today. I wanted to give you a sense of how Workday Adaptive Planning helps your collaboration, how it lets you consolidate and concentrate on global changes in some places so that they flow through to others to improve your collaboration and your trust. And I hope you enjoyed it. And back to you, Terry.
Great. Thanks, Ernie. Got two more slides I just want to pop up. We have at Revelwood a very robust knowledge center, and this is a resource that's free to folks. It's at revelwood.com, and there's all kinds of information there. There are use cases, there are articles, a plethora of great information for folks, finance professionals you'll find there. So feel free to head over there and check it out. Final slide. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for joining today. If you have additional questions, if you'd like to get some additional information or potentially set up a demonstration of adaptive planning, please reach out to me. This is my contact information, and I'd be happy to chat with you about your interest and schedule a demonstration or send you whatever information will help you. Thanks everyone for joining today. We really appreciate your taking the time, and hopefully we'll be speaking with you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.